Okay, now that we have our styles added properly through the functions.php, we're going to do a couple things. First of all, we can remove all three of these styles since they're being loaded twice right now. We don't need to do those. And then our JavaScript, we want to go ahead and add our JavaScript through the onQScript function instead of directly here. Now, going and looking through the site, we do have one script in the header, and we have two in the footer as well. If you go look at the index.html page right now and scroll down to the footer, you'll see there's jQuery is included in the footer as well as the bootstrap for JavaScript there. So what we need to do is a couple things. First of all, let's go ahead and just let's copy the code for both of those, or just leave that open so we can access that and get these scripts added via the functions PHP. Let's uncomment this out and add our first script, which is going to be the HTML5, the shiv script in the header. So this is in the JavaScript folder. It's HTML5 shiv.js. So this is going to be just like adding the CSS before, and actually we have the, just call this shiv. We have the template all set up for this just about exactly. So all we have to do is paste in the name here. And as long as our folder name is called JS, which it is. So this is in the exact right location. This should load properly. Now we talked a little bit about the array, the version number here, and then true or false. And maybe talk about true or false real quick and what that does.
True or false, again, it's going to determine whether or not it displays in the header or in the footer. And I believe that the default is set to display in the footer, right? The default is...
Right, true would display in the footer, and false would put it in the header. So let's actually do it both ways and look at that real quick. So if we have it as true and we just save this and reload our WordPress theme, and actually in this case, we didn't delete our other styles yet, did we? Oh, we need to do it out of the header.php. Did we save this? There we go. Let's try again. Okay, so we're no longer loading all these additional style sheets at the top, which is the first thing.
Right.
But we should be loading a script in here, and it's not. It's not loading any script in the header, right?
Right.
Because that's, right now, it's set to true. So let's go back to our functions and set this to false and see if this loads in the header now.
Right. True should be default, and that should send it to the footer.
But we don't have a footer set up yet,
right.
So it's not going to show. So let's just for the sake of example, if we go here, there it is right there. Script, token themes, JS, JavaScript. And that's actually where we want this. We want this part in the header, so we want to set that to false. So let's go ahead and add our, before we do that, let's add the footer PHP. We need to get that set up. This is pretty simple, but we want to go to our index.html and grab all of the footer content and throw it in a separate index.php file. So there's latest tweets, that's part of the footer. Start at the footer, grab everything else and copy it, and then we'll create a new file called footer.php. Now keep in mind, you don't have to create a separate footer file. You can do this all, you can paste your footer PHP or your footer code on every single page that you create. This just saves time to have a separate file so we can edit the code once and call it on every page instead of having to, do it a bunch of times. Now, just like in the header PHP file, before the closing head tag, we had to put WP header or the WP head tag. We need to put WP footer here to make sure that it actually creates the hook for our functions to hook into.
Right, because again, we're going to call that WP on QScripts, and we're going to call it as false this time, or we're going to call it as true this time, and when it's true, it needs to display down here in the footer. It's got to have somewhere to go. This is going to allow it to hook in.
Yeah, and actually, we've already shown this. If we don't have this WP footer, nothing that we put in the footer from the functions PHP is just going to show up here.
Right.
It's not going to show up at all. So let's just put it here and make sure this is the footer PHP. Go ahead and save that out. And then what we also need to make sure to do is in our index PHP right now, Let's go ahead and add get footer. Otherwise it won't output to the front end. So we're not calling any content. We can create something there if we want to, but this is good for now. So we should just have a header and a footer with some style sheets and scripts loading in between. And actually it loads our footer content. The styling isn't exactly right, but that's loading all the content there. And let's go down to the footer body. There's header and footer. And
again, right now though, it's going to load these statically because we still have them statically in the footer and we haven't run them through the functions yet.
Exactly. So we have our scripts right here, and then WordPress actually loads its admin bar in the footer because we've added the WP footer function. I'll show you that real quick. This just allows WordPress to kind of do its thing. If we delete this real quick and reload the page, notice this top icon, the top bar is gone there. So we need to have WP footer in there just to let WordPress do its thing. Let's get rid of this page. Let's go to the...
Right, so you kind of earlier said that it's like a little bit optional to have a footer or not have a footer, like you can do it on each page. But really the truth is it's not. WordPress wants us to have a header and a footer and then a page template to draw from as well for each page.
Well, yes and no. We have to have this hook at the bottom of our, or before the closing body tag in every page that we're on. But what you could do is you could go into the index.php page and paste all of this content, all of this right here, instead of saying get footer, which is a separate page template. So you could do this and then have this, go into each page template and edit it. It's just much more efficient this way.
Yeah, getting more and more reasons why you should do it the way that we're doing it.
Exactly. Okay, so now what we should be loading is the HTML5 shiv in the header, which is set to false. That's correct. And let's go ahead and load these other two in the footer. And this is actually going to be fairly simple, especially once we've actually on-queued some styles. It's a little bit easier to do this stuff. First of all, we have jQuery, which is located in the footer, and then we have the Bootstrap JavaScript. jQuery is easy. jQuery is so common that WordPress comes bundled with jQuery. They use it for some of their own functions, and all you have to do is say, hey WordPress, load jQuery, and it's going to load it. So the way we do that is via the onQueue script. So we'll copy that. And then if you just name it jQuery, WordPress knows what that means. And if we save that change, we go look, it's going to be located in the header. That's where WordPress usually loads it, and most themes load it as well, or just depending, you can load it in the header or footer, but that's where WordPress is going to load it. So you can see right here is the latest version of JavaScript, which is loaded via WordPress.
Right, and if we wanted to put it in the footer, that's possible to do, but not necessary, so we're not going to do it right now.
Yeah, you can just look up how to load the WordPress in the footer, and there's a little script you can throw in your functions PHP, which will throw it in the footer, but it's not extremely important, especially for this theme that we have it in the footer. So now that we have that loaded, we can remove this, the jQuery script, so it's not loading twice, and then let's add the JavaScript. I'm going to copy that folder over, go back to our functions, and paste that so I can copy this. I'm going to copy this whole script, and then we're just going to change some of the names here. So this is going to be our Bootstrap script, and it's finding get template directory URI, which is let's go to the theme folder, look in the JS directory, and then find X. So let's change that over to JS/bootstrap.min.js. Make sure it's semantic. There we go. And again, the false is going to put this in the header, but this one is very easy to load in the footer. We just change that to true. So that's going to load it in the footer. And then I need to make sure that I close this because I deleted something. Okay, let's save that out. So I'm going to go ahead and, I'm just going to check and make sure it's loading in the footer first. And it should, when I say the footer, it should load right before the closing body tag, which is where we have this place. So if I go down to the body tag and scroll up, I'm looking for my script, and there is the, before the closing body tag, I'm sorry. There it is right there, bootstrap.min.js. That's right after the admin bar. So right now we have these loading twice, which we don't want. So we can remove both of these scripts. Save that bad boy out. Reload. And there we go. Bootstrap.min.js is loading there. Our jQuery is loading in the header. And all of our style sheets are loading.
Yeah, so now that we have that done, we'll move on to the next section, which is going to be our menu. And we'll get that all loaded and ready to go and move on from there.
Yep, sounds great.